Hi guys, I'm Kat.
And I'm Emma.
And thank you for joining us once again on the Dead Parent Club podcast.
Each week we're going to be talking about what it's like to be members of the Dead Parent Club, chatting to brilliant guests about their grieving journeys and just trying to help you wherever we can.
We'll also be hearing from people far more qualified than us, like counsellors, solicitors, medical professionals and mindfulness coaches, all on the topic of grief and looking after yourself.
So welcome to the Dead Parent Club.
Now, I am so excited for this episode because we're going to be talking about what you actually have to say and do to someone who's just lost a parent.
Yeah, because it's difficult, isn't it? I mean, you don't know what to say or what to do ordinarily when someone loses someone really close to them. So, you know, if you're somebody listening to this now who knows someone who's lost someone close, be it a parent, a partner, a sibling, a friend, whoever that may be, we're going to put together a little guide, sort of our top tips on how to approach it, how to deal with it, and how we think they would feel best about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, if you're a young griever as well and you're listening to this and you just kind of want to give a subtle nod to somebody that this is how you want them to kind of approach you with your grief, or you think that it'll be useful for a friend, then absolutely pass this on. And also, obviously, we would absolutely love to hear from you. So if you think we've missed out some really valuable advice or an insight that you'd love to share, you can contact us by email at hello@deadparentclub.co.uk and on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter at Dead Parent Club Podcast.
So I think the first thing I would say, and I know we touched on this in a previous episode, is if you've lost someone, you're going to feel awful.
Absolutely shit.
Like, there's no feeling quite like it,
No.
is there? Let that person feel like that. Please don't tell them why it's okay because, well, at least you've got wonderful memories and, you know, you did have 18 years with them. Acknowledge that their situation right now is shit, that you know you can't change it and that your words can't bring that person back, but that you are a safe ear whenever they want to talk about it.
And on that point, you know, I think one of the things to try and avoid saying, and it slips off the tongue so easily, is that I can't imagine how you must be feeling. Because I think as soon as somebody says that to you, it makes you feel even more isolated in your emotions.
Yeah, because it makes you feel like they're completely detached from how you feel. Like,
Yeah.
if you can't even imagine it, how bad is it then?
Yeah.
Because,
I can't imagine what I would do if my dad died. Like, well, one, he will die. I'm
Yeah.
sorry to bring that to you, but it will happen. Two, I can assure you that the grief and immense pain that I'm feeling from my loss is just as immense as what you will feel at that point.
yeah, and you can imagine it. Come on.
Sit and just really, really feel it.
Yeah, have a moment to imagine what that feels like, because then, no, but seriously, there's a lot of, you know, empathy is so important in grief. We're not expecting you to know how we feel or to know exactly what to say or do, but just to go, do you know what? I understand that this is the worst thing that could possibly happen, and I can imagine how that feels, and I want to be here to help you.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, it's important to have some patience with that person as well, because grief can bring out the worst in you, and you might be a little bit more grumpy than usual. Naturally, you know, things might piss you off quicker than they usually would. And I think it's just really important to give that person the space and the listening ear to be angry, be upset, cry, and also laugh. And, you know, one of the most important things I think me and you both share is when people share memories with you. I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, I was in a fortunate position. I mean, not so fortunate because mum died, but fortunate enough that she taught at the school I went to, which ultimately meant that two of my very all-time best friends got taught by her. So they have their own unique memories of her that they share with me. And Hannah, my best friend, we've been friends since we were 2. So she has a lifetime of memories. And where my memory is vague sometimes, because I think psychologically it's a defense mechanism, it's there to protect us, so, you know, it blocks a lot of the memories. She talks about our childhood and about mum, and she'll do you know what Hannah does really, really well? And if you're a friend listening to this might help you, is sometimes we'll talk and she's not afraid to say, I dreamt about your mum, or I pictured your mum this morning.
Love that.
I remembered a little fringe and those dangly earrings she used to wear that she used to get from Blakemere Craft Centre. I could see her in a V-neck top and a high-waisted pants, and she's walking around in them shoes where they didn't have any heels in at the back, and she's doing that little smile. And that evokes, that brings out then in me such an amazing emotion, because I'm going, I picture her too. Don't be afraid to bring that person up. Go, just because you're not talking about them, that person isn't. Go, hey, let's talk about them.
Absolutely. One of the things that I always think of when you say things like that is when people say, oh, I didn't want to bring them up because I didn't want to upset you. And it's like, I can guarantee that I am upset anyway. That they're not here. You talking about her isn't going to suddenly remind me that my parent is dead. Like, I am well aware.
Hang on a minute. I've been fine, actually, for a few years since she popped
Thanks
it.
for that.
Must remember to cry. Thank you.
Naturally, if you start talking about that person, the person that you're talking to might end up crying. But don't be afraid of that. Like, a lot of the time when people are talking to me and sharing memories with me about my mum, I'm crying because I'm happy and because it reminds me that she existed.
Yes. And that she's not forgotten.
Yeah.
And also, we all know, let's be honest, okay, I'm an ugly crier, but I feel so good after it.
Oh, nothing like it.
And I think everyone, whether you've lost a parent or a loved one or not, we all get to a point in life where at certain stages where we go, I just want to cry. We have a good cry and we feel better for it. So you making that person cry, well, you're not making them, you're talking to them and bringing out an emotion in them. It is wonderful because you're allowing some of the weight to fall off their shoulders in those moments, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there is nothing quite like just shedding a few real grief tears.
Yeah. Oh my God, one of my favourite things to do is stick on some sad songs in my car and go for a pointless drive.
Yes, I love it.
Yeah. I mean, God knows the amount of people that must have seen me at the traffic lights. Like, what is she doing?
Yeah,
I don't
sometimes
care.
I'm like, am I in a film?
Yeah.
I'm like looking out of the window, just crying. And trust me, if you're listening now on behalf of a friend who has lost somebody, I can guarantee that they have at least at some point in their grieving journey done something very similar.
Do you know what? Go in that car, go on that journey with them.
Yeah.
Hannah does that with me.
Listen to their depressing music.
Let them whack it right up.
Yeah.
Cry your eyes out with them. Me and Hannah have done that so many times. And do you know what? It feels great. Because
my boyfriend always says to me, why is your music so depressing? And I'm like, because I like to feel things in my soul.
Because I don't live in a glass case of emotion. That's why.
Absolutely.
But also, like, ask the person that's grieving, is there a place you'd like to go see? Was there something that makes you feel close to that person? It might be a place they loved. It might be their graveside. Or whatever it is, tell them you'll take them.
Absolutely. I think, and also just showing an interest in wanting to get to know more about that person. So say if you can't share memories because you didn't know them, a lot of the time we make friends, we forge relationships with people that have never had the opportunity of meeting that person. And just by introducing them to a place that reminds you of them, or if you ask to go there, it's just such a nice natural way to bring up memories and talk about them, and whether that is by their grave. And people get so freaked out about graveyards and stuff, and I think there is nowhere more peaceful than to sit on the grass and talk about your loved one. And for me, that place is just the whole of Wales, just the whole freaking the whole country.
Why is it Wales?
So I'm Welsh, my mum is Welsh, and just so many of my summers were spent there with my mum. And my mum always said to me, she always feels at home in Wales because wherever she can see the mountains, she feels safe. So whenever I go to Wales and I see the mountains, I instantly feel safe, and it just makes me feel so much closer to my mum. So for me, going to Wales and spending time there with somebody that's close to me is really, really precious.
I love that. Isn't that amazing?
It's the whole country, so it's really flexible.
Except not right now because we're not allowed to go.
Yeah.
Cheers, COVID. No, but that's so true. Like you like things like that. Like my mum, when she was having her chemo, there was a picture on the wall of fairies, like the Candy Tuft Fairy and different fairies. And she said she used to look at it and feel like everything was going to be okay. So, and she actually had a tattoo of the Candy Tuft Fairy on her back. I think that was a bit of a midlife crisis as well. And now, whenever I see that fairy, I'm like, Or whenever, one of my friends, because they know that, will buy me a card with the fairy on it.
I love that.
Because
So
she used to
nice.
say the candy tooth fairy, it was a blonde curly-haired fairy. She said it was like me. And so they'll buy me a card with that on. And I think things like that where you can, even, Kat, when someone says to you, tell me about that person.
Oh my God, it's amazing.
That is all I want to hear.
Talk to me about my dead mum. Like, please, God.
Yeah. Like, all I want to say, all I want to hear is someone say, tell me about your mum. And do you know what? If you don't want to speak, I'll go for the next 2 hours. I can tell you and tell you and tell you all about my mum.
Absolutely.
It's true, isn't it?
Yeah.
Invite them in. Say, tell me about them.
Yeah. And kind of talking about places that might remind your friend of their parent. Usually, in COVID times, like me, it might be difficult to go there right now. So try and find a place where it might not be the exact same, but a place where they feel open and free to talk about it. So like for me, that's going out for a walk in the countryside. That's where I feel close to my mum as well. So listen to them, and like how you just had that story there about like the fairies and stuff, like listen to the stories that they tell you and try and incorporate something into their life that shows that you've listened, whether that's making the meal that they told you that was their parents' favourite meal, or being like, should we watch that film that you said you and your mum always watch together? Like, how lovely is that to have somebody that does that for you? It's
amazing. And when you're talking to them about it as well, I think another thing that's really nice to say is, what parts of you are like that parent? And then let them go. Let them learn through that way, because then you feel almost like there's elements, you're introducing them to your parent through elements of you. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
And I just think things like that, where you invite them to talk about it, is so important. And pick up the phone.
Pick up the damn phone.
Like, don't
wait.
Yeah. Don't just wait for them to go, I really want to talk. Pick up the phone.
There is nothing worse than somebody being like, I'm here for you when, like, if you want to talk, because I can, like, 100% tell you that, for me, I had a lot of people. You have a lot of people that you're not actually that close to message you like, I'm so sorry for what you're going through. Like, I'm always here for you. No, you're not.
Yeah.
Like, it sounds brutal, but you want as a friend, you want to be that person that really is. And I think, and to do that, the best thing to do is to be proactive and really, really stand by what you're saying, but call them.
Yeah.
Like, turn up at their front door.
Yeah, don't wait for them, because I think we all know that most people, if you say to them, I'm here if you want to talk, nobody wants to be the person that picks up the phone and goes,
I want to talk.
I really want to talk. We want you to go, I told you I was here if you want to talk, so talk to me now.
Yeah.
Tell me how you're feeling. And if you need to cry, you cry.
Yeah.
And I know I've banged on about Hannah, but she is amazing.
God, bloody
at that.
Hannah, you've got
this podcast is dedicated. No, but she will. We are so close that she has, like, I think she senses.
Like a sixth sense.
Yeah. And she will genuinely just ring and go, how are you, Emma? I'm just ringing to check how you are. And that, now, bear in mind, this is 13 years on since Mum died. 13 years, and she still does that. And I think that longevity, knowing that, that's never going to stop, even that, it makes you feel closer to that dead person, because there's somebody there checking in and being there for you. So be that friend, be that partner, be that acquaintance, please.
Definitely. And, when we say to be there as well, that also means when you make a plan, like, don't ask them, whenever you're free, we can do this. Because again, they're not going to tell you when they're free, because chances are they're free the majority of the time because they're grieving and they don't really want to do anything. Or it's COVID and they can't do anything. Yeah. So I think just make a plan to them. Say, on Saturday, let's go for a walk. I'll be there at this time. And it can feel quite uncomfortable doing that at first, because you don't want a lot of people are scared of imposing themselves on somebody. But honestly, there's only so long that you can spend in a house where people are mourning.
Exactly.
Like, it's suffocating.
Yeah. And so like Kat says, don't be afraid to go, right, we're doing this at this time. Like, just stick whatever you want on and we're going for a walk. But don't try and force them to do something that's supposed to be fun. Don't try and drag them on a night out and get them drunk. Don't try and make them do something where they feel they have to expend their energy pretending that they're having a good time. Like, let them do something that allows them to feel safe in sharing their grief. Because you drag them on a night out, I think Kat and I both speak from experience.
You'll spend the night in the toilet cubicle with tears or on a pavement. It just won't be fun for anyone involved.
I remember being in the toilets, right? And I'd met some stranger, obviously. She was absolutely lovely. And some girl walked in and was like, oh my God, are you crying about a boy? Because if you are, it's not worth it.
No.
And I was like, absolutely not. I've got bigger fish to fry, thanks. My mum's dead. And then I was like, it's time to go home. It's time to go home, Emma.
God. Honestly, the amount of times that I spent crying on roadsides and pavements and like...
Isn't that how you met my twin brother? Didn't you bond over? Yeah,
basically, yeah.
Drunk dead parents.
Drink and grief. It's not a beautiful match made in heaven.
No.
Honestly, it couldn't be worse. One of the greatest things that my brother said to me when my mum died was, don't drink for the next 3 months.
Yeah.
And fair dues to him, I didn't drink for the next 3 months. But Christ, when I did drink after that, it was just as much of a mess.
Honestly, and it really is, isn't it? And you don't feel any better the next day.
No.
Because the next day you're hungover and your parents still dead.
Yeah. And not to be scientific here, but alcohol...
Depressant.
...is a depressant. Yeah. So if you're feeling like shit when you start drinking, I can promise you the next day you're going to feel 100 times worse. And grief is painful. Grief and... like hangover anxiety is just, nobody needs it. So yeah, and also remember the things that they used to find fun before their parent died might not be their idea of fun now. People change. You change with grief. Naturally, you just
do.
Overnight.
Yeah, you really do. So don't just expect that because they used to enjoy, I don't know, going to that bar or that pub or that club, that's what they want to do right now. Let them do whatever they want to do. And a lot of the time, that is just something really simple, like a walk and going and being in a place where you can talk about it. The other thing I think is to don't just ask once, don't just offer once, just repeatedly make sure they know that you're there.
Pester them.
Yeah, no, seriously. Just be that person because... say even if, if that person's got kids or whatever, offer, can I take the kids out for the day? So you can be on your own to organise, get whatever you need to get together.
I can imagine that being so valuable, I'm very lucky in the way that when my mum died, I did mostly just have to look after myself and my dad. But imagine looking after your kids. Like, if you've got anybody out there that is balancing an awful lot on their plate, whether it is children or a really stressful job that they can't take much time off, make them a meal, drop it off, take their kids out to the park, like just do something that you think might make their life a little bit easier. Mow their lawn.
Yeah.
Like just
the
if your
logistical things.
If your next door neighbour has lost somebody, just get your lawnmower out and mow the lawn. I'm sure they'll be absolutely thrilled.
It's so true. And do you know what? A lot of people, when somebody dies, they go, I'll send them some flowers.
Oh, no, don't.
Flowers die in a few days. You've not got the energy to water them anyway. Let's be honest, have you? And I've got hay fever, so don't worry.
Not at all.
I'd rather have chocolates, but don't send them flowers. Do if you want, but be there as well. Send them flowers and you.
Yeah, because there is nothing, I say there's nothing worse. Flowers are a lovely gift, but as a griever, it can feel a little bit like a second thought. Like if I send them some flowers, it's done. And my top thing now that I will give to anybody who's just a parent is a vase, because there is nothing more useful. And one of my friends recently lost her mum, and one of the saddest moments was when I went over there and we were going for a walk together, and I was outside her house waiting for her to come out, and her dad was just walking in and out of the house binning all of these dead flowers. And it was just such a monumental sight. Flowers don't last, and just having all of this colour in your house to then stripping it bare and emptying all of these dead flowers, it's just
sad.
It's sad. Yeah.
Whereas if you have a vase, you have a place to put the flowers and you can keep it.
Yeah.
And you can smash it up if you get really upset.
Yeah, that's also a good idea.
And also, you'll know your friend or your partner or whoever it is that's grieving. You'll know the things that they like. Make them a little care package. To put if you know their favourite chocolates, or if you know that they like a certain kind of shower gel, even things like that, or things that will allow them.
It doesn't have to be a lot. It can just be a packet of their favourite biscuits. Honestly,
there's
nothing I'd
really
love more.
Or even if it's if they're really into gaming, for example, buy them a game.
Yeah.
Let them play that game. Whatever you know that, because people are into all sorts of different things and you'll know that person. So just get them whatever you think will help, just that little bit.
Yeah. And also talking about gifting and care packages and stuff, well, we all like food, right? I mean, obviously. And one of the things that a lot of people struggle to do is cook. So, you know, we talked about dropping off some food at the house. Order their favourite takeaway.
Yeah.
Like if they're at home with their family or at home on their own, what a nice surprise that would be to just have dinner.
Oh my God. If someone had brought me a tikka masala the day
Yes,
after Mum had
please.
died, I'd be like, oh, thank you very much. Is that pilau rice? Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Like, no, but that's a great shout, seriously, because then you don't have to cook. You get a takeaway as well, and you can just sit and just be. Because I think that's another huge thing that has helped me is to just sit with someone and be, not feel like you have to talk about anything, really. Just let them be as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Could not agree more. Just going for, you know, one of the things that I did with my friend who recently lost her mum was just going for walks. Like, and there's something about walking that really allows you to open up. And
You've got nothing else to do.
Well, yeah, literally. But also, if you do want to walk in silence, that's fine as well. Just admire your surroundings and wherever you are. And there's just, you know, you come back from that and you just feel like you've had a little bit of respite.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? What you're doing for your friend or partner or acquaintance by being there for them is wonderful.
Yeah.
Genuinely wonderful.
Yeah.
It takes...
By listening to this podcast.
Yeah. If you care enough to do that. Exactly. It shows real willingness to be there for that person. And one thing that I think is also important to remember, particularly if you are a partner or you spend a lot of time with that person, is you can also have a little bit of time for yourself.
You read my mind.
Is this what you're going to say?
Yeah.
You can't be the best for that person unless you're looking after yourself as well.
You can't pour from an empty cup.
So it's very easy for people to put a whole lot of pressure on themselves. Take a sit back. Think about what you would want in that situation. Know that it's okay for that person to have space, and actually that's important for grief. And look after yourself in the same way you're looking after that person.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's only, you know, you do have to make time for yourself, and grief is heavy. Like I know that we laugh and we joke and stuff, but grief is some heavy shit. And if you might have known that person that your friend lost as well, and you have your own grief to deal with and your own emotions to go through. So I think, you know, just echoing there what Emma has said, just take some time out for you, and then you can be that best version of yourself for that person when they need them. And don't be afraid to say no sometimes. It might be hard to that person, but they will also understand as well.
Exactly.
Just make sure you take some time out for you.
And do you know what as well? Don't be afraid to tell us if we've missed anything out. If there's any top tips that you can think of to add to those ones, maybe things you've done that you think might help other people, please do let us know. Get in touch with us and let us know, because we are here to help you.
And just before we go, I think let's just share our 5 top takeaways for this episode, so that, you know, if you don't do any of these things, just think of these 5 and you'll be on the right tracks.
Yes.
You'll be going somewhere. So number 1 is always validate their feelings and give them the space to talk openly and like share their memories. And just as soon as you've opened that door and done it once, you'll find it so much easier to do it again and again. Just that first time can be the hardest hurdle.
Absolutely. Number 2, don't wait for them to ask for help. Please go to them.
Number 3 is don't try and drag them out on a night out, or, you know, do anything that kind of forces fun, because they're not going to feel up to it. They just want you to sit, be quiet, listen, go around to the house, watch a film, eat some food. If they say to you, can we go and do this? Then sure, great. But I think the worst thing you can do is to be like, oh, don't worry, next weekend we can go out on the piss and it'll be great, because it won't be great for anybody.
Yeah, and do you know what? Forced fun's rubbish anyway, grief or no grief.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's not do that.
Preach it.
Number 4, gift them with a diary or notebook to write down everything that they don't want to say out loud.
This is huge. I think this is one of the most valuable gifts that you can give to somebody when they're grieving.
Because if you go and see any therapist, the first thing they'll say is write down how you feel. So do it. Be that person that goes, here you go, write down. That's for you.
Don't force them, just like,
it's there. If you want it, write down how you feel.
Yeah.
And it makes a huge difference, because when you're that person and you see your feelings on paper, you're able to comprehend it in a different way.
Yeah. And there are a lot of things as well when you're grieving that you don't actually want to say to people out loud. You know, the feelings of jealousy and anger, that you're like, oh God, I can't say that to anybody because they're going to judge me. We've all been there.
I still would, though.
Yeah.
I think I definitely
did.
did.
But just having that kind of outlet is so useful. And then number 5 is remember that it's not a short-term fix. Like not looking after, but supporting somebody that's grieving, they're going to be grieving that person out for the rest of their lives. So, it doesn't end after the funeral. It doesn't end after the first year, or after the second year. Like, there are constant hurdles and milestones we have to go through in our life that are going to remind us of our loved one. I think a simple thing that you can do as a friend of somebody that's grieving is just add the date to your phone calendar, have it recurring every year. And then even if you haven't spoken to them for like 6-8 months, drop them a text and be like, just let you know I'm thinking of you this week, because there is something so powerful in something so simple, and just that reminder that that person did exist and that people still care about you is so useful.
It really is. That is one of the most powerful things, because on that day when you're thinking about that person all the time, for somebody else to acknowledge that, oh, I'm thinking about you and I'm thinking about them, it's like, well, I'm not on my own in the way I thought I was. It just makes you feel like there are others thinking about you.
Absolutely.
And you're in it for the long haul. I'm sorry, but if you're this person's friend or partner or whatever, the grief ain't going anywhere.
No.
So you are in it. You're a lifer.
Yeah.
You're part of this club, I'm
Absolutely.
afraid.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that is it. That's our top 5 tips on how to deal with, a friend, a colleague, a partner, whoever it is who has lost someone very close to them. But as I say, if there's anything we've missed out or anything you think could be beneficial, we want to help you. So please get in touch and let us know.
Yeah, you can drop us an email at hello@deadparentclub.co.uk or message us on Facebook, Instagram or Twitter at Dead Parent Club Podcast. And don't forget to share this episode with anybody that you might find it useful. At the end of the day, this is a public service announcement. We have got to help all of the young grievers out there in this community.
We certainly have. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back next week.
Have a lovely week, guys. Bye.